going on there.
You're listening to the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is The Agenda with Georgia Tolley
On Dubai Eye 103.8.
Now, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister of Sri Lanka has declared the country bankrupt. Ranil Wickremesinghe currently holds both posts and was speaking in Parliament.
We need to find $3,300 for the next couple of months for fuel, and a similar amount is required to purchase gas. And in order to order gas, import gas, we are using the Indian credit facility, and for the coming month we need $250 million for gas. Furthermore, the next coming 3 weeks is a very difficult period with regard to fuel and gas. We need to limit our travels. Therefore, do not think only about yourself, and try to conserve fuel and gas as much as possible.
As you just heard, extreme shortages of petrol, food and medicines have led to the closure of many services in Sri Lanka and triggered mass protests that have been ongoing since March. The country's been forced to shut schools and to stop providing fuel to all but essential services. Inflation is nearing 60%. The country is expected to present a debt restructuring plan to the International Monetary Fund next month. To get some analysis on that current situation in Sri Lanka, earlier on I spoke to Asanga Abeyagoonasekera, who's a Sri Lankan foreign policy analyst and a fellow with the US think tank The Millennium Project. I asked him to give us an overview of the current situation in the government.
So there is an internal political instability and a dysfunctionality in his own cabinet, which is clearly visible. I mean, the statement from the Minister of Investment Promotion saying that the Prime Minister does not have a plan, his own minister questioning the Prime Minister, shows there's no cabinet collective responsibility in the Prime Minister's regime. So the trust deficit between the general public as well as the regime has widened and it is completely deteriorated. So an election is immediately required. The third area is the political culture, absence of accountability. Structural changes that was promised to the general public through constitutional amendments, but then none of them materialize.
Is this current instability putting off international donors?
These three factors, political instability, the trust deficit, as well as the political culture, has triggered, I think, the foreign donors, the IMF, and also foreign nations like Japan, India, and China, US, about the internal dysfunctionality. So there is a huge risk in assisting at this moment, and when you don't have a regime basically under control. So that's, I think, the key reason for what the Prime Minister has mentioned, that it's a bankrupt country. I would call it a failed state because of all of these dysfunctionalities, the human security perspective, as well as people are dying. There were 11 deaths now. And the huge debt, that 51 billion totally, which Sri Lanka owes, and there is no money to pay. There's no foreign reserves. So the insolvency problem and the liquidity issue, the high inflation rate. So IMF cannot carry out the extended fund facility without a debt sustainability program. How do you draw the debt sustainability program when you have internal political dysfunctionality?
So how is the public reacting to all this?
There's going to be a huge, massive protest that's coming up. I heard from a few interviews I carried out. So several fractions of the society is organizing this large-scale protest again, which is going to get worse. It's going to affect many sectors. The health sector, people would die without medicine. The fuel shortage, which has affected the larger, about 30 to 40% who are in poverty right now in Sri Lanka, would affect their daily lives. So that's why I mentioned that there could be a larger humanitarian crisis. And what you need is the immediate with an election. Then you'd have the people's choices to represent. Here is a prime minister not elected by the general public. This model is new to Sri Lanka. So I think it's important to have political stability first and bring in the economic stability over that.
That is Asanga Abeyagoonasekera, who is a Sri Lankan foreign policy analyst and a fellow with the US think tank, the Millennium Project. That is a subject that we will be following. Obviously, the country is hoping to go to the IMF soon to get some sort of debt relief there on the problems that they are facing. But yes, we will be following that story as it develops. The agenda is live Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m.